Yay! Okay. Well, we were having some technical difficulties earlier, but it seems to be working now. So, hello to everyone who's listening to this. Um, this week, we're talking about a topic that just about everybody can relate to on one level or another. And it's just, the title is simply just family. So, it's all about family. Julie and I just recently returned from a trip we took for our 31st wedding anniversary. I know a lot of you know that last year was our 30th anniversary, and we spent like 2.5 weeks or so in China. This year was a much shorter trip. It was only 5 nights and like 4 days, but we went to Yosemite National Park. Now, I don't know if you know about Yosemite National Park, but it is a really beautiful place. It's a place that Julie and I had always wanted to go to because of its beauty. It's in California, and it's an area where uh, apparently, from what scientists say, there were glaciers there. And when the glaciers receded, it cut these very deep grooves through this valley, and they have some really high cliffs and these very tall waterfalls, and it's just a really beautiful place. And we were able to stay in a really nice hotel called the Awani Hotel, and that is settled right down inside Yosemite Valley. So, like, we got there in the evening, and when we checked into our room, went to sleep, when we woke up the next morning, we opened the shades, and literally outside this window were these big, giant mountains all around us, surrounding us. We're right in the middle of it. And it's really kind of weird to see that because, I mean, I've stayed in hotels before where there were mountains that you could see from the windows, but the mountains were always, like miles away. This was not miles away. This was like right there. You could literally walk to the base of it. And some of these mountains were very high. I mean, like, for instance, Half Dome is 8,200 feet above sea level. Well, that's more than a mile and a half high from sea level, and I don't know how far it is from the floor of the canyon, but it's a high hill. It's very big, and it's gorgeous. So this time that we had in the national park, it was a time to take in the beauty and the wonder of God's creation. When you see things like this, you immediately think about God. It's hard not to think about God as a Christian, to think of how beautiful this is and how great God is that He could create something of such enormous beauty. And it's really a great opportunity that we had to be able to be there. And it was a place. It wasn't like this place just came up yesterday. This was a place that has, I won't say it's always been there because it wasn't there before creation, but I mean, this valley was probably there for tens of thousands of years. It was there for a long, long time. So I mean, in a sense, it had been there, not always, but been there for a real long time, and it was always beautiful. It was always a beautiful place, and we had always heard that it would be a great experience to go there. But the thing is, it was, as a place, it was always a part of us in a sense. If you want to look at like the big picture and say, well, this is part of God's creation and we're part of God's creation. So in that sense, it was a part of us. And yet we had no connection to it other than hearing about it. We had heard about it, but we didn't really know it intimately. We didn't know it firsthand, so to speak. But now that we've been there, our connection to it is very different. Now it's a part of us in a more direct and meaningful way, because now we have a mental and a physical and an emotional attachment to Yosemite Valley. So even, in the past, it was something that we knew about and heard about. We didn't have any personal connection to it. So the thing about that was the reason that we were able to go from experiencing it on one level to experiencing it on a much deeper level was because we made a very deliberate effort to experience it firsthand. We had to make a decision that at some point this wasn't going to be just an idea for us. We had to make a decision that we were going to go and pursue this thing, that we were going to physically get up, get in a plane, fly several thousand miles away, get to Fresno Airport, rent a car, and then drive 2.5 hours into Yosemite Valley. And that's what it took to experience this firsthand. But being with it and around it for even just a few days would end up changing our relationship to that forever. So that one effort on our part would change our relationship. So from now on, whenever we think of Yosemite, we will never think of it in the same way that we did before. Because now we can remember the way it looked, the way it smelled, the way it felt, how we felt when we were there, interacting in that place. All of those things are now a part of our person that was not there before. Now, the reason I say all of this is that in a lot of ways, this relationship that we're talking about is a lot like with family. We have our family, and for most of us, if we're fortunate, we grow up with our immediate family, which is hopefully with a mother and a father, maybe with brothers and sisters. For some people, they grow up in a single family with just a mother or just a father, okay? But our immediate family is the one that we interact with all of the time. Then there's the family that we interact with occasionally. Okay, there's a family that would be like maybe our cousins or our aunts and our uncles. And these family members, they're still important to us because we see them, fairly often. And we know that we're family, and we treat each other in a kind of a special way because we are family. And so there's that kind of family. Then there's the family that we have family that we've never even met, okay? This is family that we've just heard about, okay? I know, for instance, I have a lot of extended family that lives in Canada, in Montreal area, because my grandparents, when they first came to this country, I'm the second generation born in the United States. My parents were born here, but my grandparents were both born were all born in Canada, the Montreal area. So they have a lot of cousins. So I have a lot of, distant cousins, second cousins, third cousins, whatever, distant cousins. But I have a lot of family in the Montreal area. I don't even know these people. I don't know who they are. I've never met them. I don't know anything about them. As a matter of fact, I can remember one time my grandmother on my mother's side, who we used to call Mimi, one time I was in high school and I ran into somebody and I realized that this person was a distant cousin to me. But I never knew who they were. I didn't even know their name. And one of the reasons was because they were related to my grandmother because they were, through marriage connections and things like that. And so they knew her and called her aunt and had a very fond relationship with them. And I didn't even know who these people were. But it was interesting because as soon as I knew that they were family, I immediately responded to them differently. I showed more interest in them. I showed more concern, more affection. I immediately felt like I needed to treat them differently than just any old stranger because there was a family connection there. And that's the kind of thing that family does for us. Family provides for us, it provides love, it provides training, it provides stability, and it provides support. And family teaches us about life. It's within our family that we learn to love unconditionally. Like I said, a lot of times, even if you don't know the person at all, if you know that they're your family, most people just know that if it's family, you're supposed to treat them better. You're supposed to show some kind of respect, some kind of connection to them because they're your family. And that can even extend out to the friends of your family. I know that my friends, if someone was my friend, my brothers always treated them really well just because they were my friend. If I met someone who was a friend of my brother, I immediately treated them like they were my friend. Okay? And again, all of this because of my connection to my family. So, family also can provide us, it gives us opportunities. It gives us opportunities to teach and to be taught and to be there to help when help can be scarce elsewhere. So there are times in our lives where we really need help, and maybe it's not so available. But we know that our family is usually, for most of us, is a source of help. Even when nobody else will help, our family will help. So my family made our vacation so much richer and more enjoyable. Now, that may seem strange because you think, well, why would my family make my trip so much more enjoyable? I was only with one member of my family. I was only with Julie. But really, I was with Julie, true, and that's the one that I enjoyed it the most with. But my family was constantly with us. They were constantly in our minds. And so being together on our anniversary, obviously, we were constantly reminded of our connection together, of this great blessing that God had given us. And it's a great blessing if you love God and God brings into your life somebody else that loves God. And if you have a godly marriage, you have something of great value. And we're constantly reminded as we spent all of our hours together all day long. You know, normally in our regular routine, we're together and then apart and regularly together apart throughout the day and the week. But when we're on vacation, like on the anniversary, we're together all the time. And we're constantly reminded of how much we value one another. But you know what? We didn't just think about each other. We spent a lot of time thinking about and talking about our parents. We talked about our children. We talked about our grandchildren and what they would think of everything that they were seeing here. We also thought about the family of God. We talked about Ben. We talked about Mac. We talked about Victor. We talked about a lot of the friends, a lot of you guys far away. You know, we talk about you. We wonder how you're doing. You're in our thoughts. You're in our prayer, and we think about these things, and we talk about both our Christian family currently and from past ministries. We talked about relationships that we had from ministries we've been in from years ago, but we still remember them. We still remember those relationships. We remember the experiences that we had with them. All of these relationships enrich our lives, and all of them were with us the entire time that we were out there. And without relationships, without our family, without the love that we shared with each other, without our thinking about and connecting with in our hearts and our minds, all the people that we love, it would have been a very different experience. It still would have been pretty, but in effect, it would have been just looking at a bunch of rocks. It just wouldn't have had the same meaning. Family makes everything better. It enriches everything. especially if you have a close and loving relationship with them the way God intends. Family is an interesting thing because it's a central part of just about everybody's life on this earth. No matter where you go, family is an important thing. And I believe that the physical creation that God has made is just like a type or a model of the reality of things. In other words, there's the spiritual reality of things, which is a forever thing. And then there's the physical thing that God creates. It's kind of a model of that. And the Bible talks about that throughout in many different places, which we won't go to today. But you could do a whole study on how the things of this world are a model of the things above. And family is one of those things. As a matter of fact, God refers to himself as the Father. He talks about Jesus being the Son. He talks about the church being the family of God. Why does he do that? Because he knows we can relate to that. He knows that we can understand that. We can't just understand. If he were to just try to describe in his own words the relationship between him and his creation, it would probably not be something we could grasp. But when he puts it in those terms, we say, okay, I understand that. I understand what that's about. So the family is central to our life, and the family of God is central to our life in that this is the family that we're going to share eternity with God. It's the family of God that we're going to be with forever. Family is not the same thing as friendship. It's not that we can't be friends with our family. We can. But there's a difference. Because friendship is based on our personal preference. We look at friendship and we say, this is my friend because I like being with them. I prefer to be with this person than I do, say, that person. It's a decision that I make on my part to spend time with, to invest my time with, and it's someone, the relationship is born completely out of my choice. Family is not that way. Family is based on something outside of our personal preference. It's not chosen. Our family just is, whether we like it or not. We don't get to choose our mother and father. We don't get to choose our cousins or our brothers and sisters. And we don't get to choose the family of God either as Christians. As Christians, the family of God are those that God has chosen. It's those that God has called. And just like in a big family, for those that are in a big family, or if you know a lot of your cousins and aunts and uncles and things, you know that there are some of them that you like a real lot, there's some of them you really don't like a real lot, and there's some people kind of in the middle. Excuse me. If you have a big family, some of them are sick. Some of them are okay. Maybe some of them are mentally ill. Maybe some of them are disabled. Maybe some of them are retarded. I know that's not a popular word these days, but you know what I mean. Mentally challenged. Whatever it is, in your family, there's a wide range of people. And those aren't necessarily the people, again, that you would choose to be your friend. It wouldn't be your personal choice, but rather that's who they are because of their relationship. Their relationship, say, to your mother and father, and in the case of being a Christian, it's the relationship that's in Christ. So I want to talk a little bit about, so what makes a great relationship, family relationship? And I want to use as a model, and I want to spend the rest of the time here talking about this. I want to use as a model an example that the Bible has in Proverbs 31, verses 10 through 31. And this is a thing that talks about a wife of noble character. Now, I know when we say this, a lot of people say, well, this is all about a wife. You know, what does that have to do with me? Well, if I'm a man, I'm never going to be a wife, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. As we read through this, I want you to think of this not just as a wife, but just think of this as a person, as a loving person committed to their family, whether it would be male or female. So let me start. A wife, and if you want to say, or a person of noble character, who can find? That person is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like the merchant ships bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it's still dark. She provides food for her family and portions for her servant girls. She considers a field and buys it out of her earnings and plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes a seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the reward she has earned, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. For most women, not just women, but even a man, they'd read something like this and say, wow, this is a formidable person. If I could be this good of a human being, if I could do everything that this human being is doing, I would be a tremendous person. And I think that's exactly why the Bible goes on and describes her in this way. Because what she's saying is, this is what a person who is really devoted to God and family, this is what a person like that looks like. So when we walk closely with God, when we love God, we're also going to love our family. And we're going to love the family of God. And a lot of the things that you see in this woman described in Proverbs 31 is going to be the way you're going to live your life, and I'm going to live my life. And I just want to take a few minutes to talk about what are some of those things that we just read. Well, one of the things, the first thing it starts out with is she has great value, far more than rubies. The thing is, if you're a person that loves God and you love your family, you are of great value. You are more valuable and more blessed than all the jewelry and jewels and money and everything in the world. Because you are filled with the things that money cannot buy. And that is, you are filled with the love of God and the love of your family. No amount of money on earth can buy that. That's something that Solomon came to understand. And I remember even years later, many years ago, there's a famous quote by a man who at one time, when I was a kid in the 60s, there was a man who at that time was the richest man in the world, and his name was J. Paul Getty. Most people don't hear of him anymore. Now they hear about Bill Gates or William Buffett or whatever. But this guy, J. Paul Getty, was considered the richest man in the world. And one of the things that he talked about toward the end of his life is he said, I would give all the billions of dollars that I ever earned to have had one loving wife, one great marriage in my life. I would give everything I had to have that. So here's a man who was a multi-billionaire, the richest man on earth, that had every physical benefit that a person could have, and they recognized that it could not buy love. It could not buy the love of God. It could not buy the love of a family. And unfortunately, he was an elderly man when he came to understand that, and he never did have that. Now, whether or not he ever had the relationship with God, I don't know, because I don't know anything about him personally. I hope for his sake he did. But the first point is that this kind of thing has great, great value. So the thing is, if you're a loving person, a person that really loves God and loves your family, you are of great value regardless of anything else that happens in your life. I don't care what else you screw up in your life. If you're a loving person who loves God and loves their family, you are a person of great value. And that's something that everybody can do. The second point is that she does good all the days of her life. To be a person who really loves God and loves family is a person that does good. And they don't just do a good thing once in a while. They do good all the days of their life. And when we walk with God and we love God and we love one another, we are going to do good. We're going to do good today. We're going to do good tomorrow. We're going to do good the next day. We're going to do good all the days of our life. Now, that's not to say we'll never do anything bad or we'll never sin, because that's impossible. We are sinners. The Bible says all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and we will sin, but God will forgive us, and we will continue. If we're walking in a loving relationship with God and family, we are going to do good all the days of our life. The next point is, this passage talks about how she works hard and with wisdom. When we love, we work hard. We work hard for that person. We don't try to do just the minimum. We don't try to just do as little as we can. We work hard. We go the extra mile. We try to think of a lot of little details. We try to make things special for that person. If you plan, I've known people that plan like a birthday party for their children, and they really love their children, and they will think about the tiniest little details. They'll have balloons, they'll have streamers, they'll have candles on the cake, they'll have the kind of cake that they like. If they love, Thomas the Train, they'll have Thomas the Train all over the place. But they'll think about that person. And the more they love that person, the more they're going to think about what really makes that person happy. And they think about, how can I work hard to make them happy? And that's what in the Bible, it talks about how she worked hard. And she had wisdom. She thought about what she was doing. Sometimes we can work hard but not show a lot of wisdom. We don't stop to think about what we're doing. And we can end up just making a big mess out of things. Because we're being stupid. We're not thinking. You have to show some wisdom. You have to stop and reflect on it. Maybe get some advice. Pray about it. Think about it. But show wisdom in what you're doing. Don't just work hard. Work hard and show wisdom. That's what she did. It also says that her kindness extends to everyone around her. The kindness that we should be showing should not just be to one person. It's not like, well, I'm kind to my wife and I'm kind to my kids, but I'm a real jerk to everybody else. No, her kindness extended to everyone, the Bible said. To her husband, to her children, to her servants, to her employees, to the poor, to the needy. To whoever she met, whatever their circumstances, she showed kindness. And that's the kind of person that loves God and loves family, is their heart is filled with kindness, and they extend that kindness to the people around them. If you're near her, she's looking out for you. And that's a beautiful thing, to know that there's someone, and just because they love God and they love the family of God, that just being around them, you know they're looking out for you. They're not going to leave you behind. If you're not doing well, they want to help. They're always trying to figure out some kind of way to make it better for you. It also said that she shows strength and dignity. To me, strength and dignity are not things that you necessarily just choose to have for the moment. Strength and dignity is a byproduct of something else that you're doing. You know, for instance, if I want to be strong, I just can't go to something that weighs 500 pounds and try to pick it up. Okay, now if I could pick up 500 pounds, I'd already be strong. But if I go and I try to pick up 500 pounds and I'm not strong enough to do it, I'm going to hurt myself. Okay, but if I want to be strong, I have to do heavy lifting. And it's the same with everything else. If I want to be strong in my character, I have to be willing to do some heavy lifting with my character. I have to be able to do the right thing even when it's difficult. If the only time I do the right thing is when it's something that I feel great about and it's exactly what I want to do, I'm not going to have a strong character. I'm not going to have dignity. To have dignity means that I am going to be a person who has a strong character and handles it with graciousness. And that starts with having the strong character. So being strong is not just me lifting a 500-pound barbell. Me being strong is about me taking on things that are hard to do, that are difficult, and persevering through it. And that's what makes me strong and gives me dignity. And the person who loves God and family is going to show strength and dignity. Because again, go back to what we said, that person does good all the days of their life. Now, if you're going to do good all the days of your life, it means there's some days you're going to be in a great mood and everything's going to be going your way, and it's going to be easy to do the right and the good thing. But it also means if you're going to do good all the days of your life, there's going to be days that you don't feel like doing anything. You don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning. You don't feel like going to work. You don't feel like calling this person. You don't feel like getting with anybody. You don't feel like encouraging anybody. You don't think about anything. And you don't want to do anything, and you do it anyway. Why? Because you love God and you love your family. And believe me, any mother who's listening to this will tell you firsthand that if she loves her kids, there are a lot of times she's doing stuff she don't want to do. And it's not just true of mothers, but it's especially true of mothers, especially with young children. But it's true of every one of us, male or female. It's if you want to have strength and dignity, you're going to have to be very persevering. Also, she's able to laugh easily. To laugh easily means I don't take myself too seriously. Okay? If I'm just serious as a heart attack all the time, and I take everything super serious, it's like I think too much of myself. That kind of person does not laugh easily. A person that laughs easily can laugh at themselves. They can laugh at themselves, they can laugh at somebody else, they can laugh with somebody else. They can laugh easily because they don't take anything, they don't hold a grudge, they don't get angry easily, they're pretty easygoing, and they're looking for the good in life. So if you can laugh easily, you're a person who's looking for the good in people. You're looking for the good in life. And that's of very high value. And finally, the Bible says she deserves praise and honor and receives it from both God and others. You know, the thing here is, when we live this kind of life, when you think of the people that really excel at this, that really show an intense love for God and for the family of God, and by the family of God, you got to realize that they're not just being nice to their friends. Okay, anybody can be nice to their friends. I mean, in the Bible, it talked about how, King Herod was friends with, Pontius Pilate or whatever. Well, both those guys are very wicked men, but they could still have friends. You could be, Charlie Manson, the mass murderer, could have friends. A friend is just a personal choice because you got something in common with them that you choose to hang out with. It doesn't take a lot of self-sacrifice to choose a friend. It can be self-sacrificial, but then it goes to a deeper level. But with your family, if you really love God and love your family, you're going to be loving and giving and serving all the time. And you're not thinking about who they are or how much you personally like them or how well they fit into your way of thinking or whatever. You're just thinking about the fact that this is my family and I will love my family. I will love my parents. I will love my children. I will love my cousins. And I will love the family of God. And that goes back to what we said very early on, just like Yosemite. It means I have to make a conscious, deliberate effort to connect with them. It isn't just going to happen. I could have thought about going to Yosemite for the rest of my life, and I would never experience the joys of looking at it, the difficulties in climbing the steep trails, whatever it was. I would not have experienced it if I had not made a very deliberate effort to go out there and do it. And it's the same thing with the family of God. You are going to have to look at who is the family of God and who are the people that God wants me to love and be with. And then I've got to make contact with them, and I've got to make time to be with them, and I've got to show concern for them, and I've got to do good for them, and I've got to be the person that Proverbs 31 talks about in this woman of noble character. I want to be a person of noble character. Whether it's a man of noble character, a woman of noble character, a husband of noble character, a wife of noble character, I want to be that person that is described in the Bible here. And the reason the Bible lays this out is because this is a person who's close to the heart of God. Because this is what God is. And so this is what the Bible does for us, is the Bible brings us to God. And it shows us the heart of God and the Spirit of God. So when the Bible describes this woman as a woman worthy of praise, as a woman filled with love and purpose and beauty, okay, basically God is saying, this is what I consider good. And it tells us not just about her, but it tells us about God. It tells us that this is how God is. And we're here to worship God. We walk as Christians in Christ to be with God. We don't worship the Bible. We don't worship a philosophy. We don't worship a way of thinking. We worship God. We worship Christ as the Son of God. We worship the man, Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God. That's who we worship. That's who we try to be like. And when they describe the woman of noble character, they're describing someone who has the heart of God. So when we have this heart, we also, like her, have the heart of God. Our family is going to be as great as we want to make it. God has given to all of us in Christ a great and large family. It's up to us to make the decision to receive it and to give our hearts to it. Let's give ourselves heart and soul to our family. Amen. Bye, everybody who heard this. See you later.